Hello BookTube, Books with Banks back again with another review today. And today I'm not reviewing a book strictly, or not your typical novel. Today we're looking at William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. The specific edition I've just read is the 2016 updated Folger's Shakespeare Library Edition. This is edited by Barbara A. Moet and Paul Werstein, with an essay at the end called A Midsummer Night's Dream, A Modern Perspective by Catherine Belzy. So I've never read this brilliant magical comedy, nor have I ever watched any adaptation, not on a stage or TV or a movie adaptation, nothing like that. All I knew of this story, were some random references and tidbits in pop culture that I came across here and there. And so I was really eager to dive into one of what I had heard was one of the more fantastical of all Shakespeare plays. So what's it all about, you ask? Well, we basically have three storylines going on here. First, we have Theseus, Duke of Athens, and Hippolyta, I might not be saying that right, Hippolyta, Queen of the Amazons. And these two, they are going to be married. But before they can do that, they must settle a marital dispute amidst the Athenian nobility. Lysander and Demetrius both love Hermia, and Hermia only loves Lysander. Unfortunately for her, Hermia's father wants her to marry Demetrius, the one she doesn't love. So if she doesn't, according to her father, and what Theseus ultimately decides, Hermia must then either join a convent or die if she doesn't marry Demetrius, and, remains in love with Lysander. So Hermia and Lysander, forbidden to get to marry, they decide to just run away into the woods together. Meanwhile, another woman, Helena, she loves Demetrius, but Demetrius doesn't have any time for Helena, because he's in love with Hermia, who's just run away into the woods with Lysander. So this poor Helena girl, she's hopelessly chasing after him, and that's storyline number one. A nice love triangle kind of thing. So that's storyline number one. Then storyline number two follows some working class Athenians, pretty simply, straightforwardly, just planning to put on a play, but doing so quite poorly. They eventually have a run-in with other characters in our third storyline. Speaking of which, that third storyline, this follows the Woodland Fairies, who get involved in trying to manipulate the two storylines mentioned above, the story of the lovers and the story of the Athenians putting on their play. And here, with the fairies, we have Oberon and Titania, respectively king and queen of the fairies. And then we have Robin Goodfellow, aka a puck or a hobgoblin, who is a servant of Oberon. And Oberon wants a young Indian boy, servant of Titania, his queen. He wants her young Indian boy servant to be his own servant. He wants to, gain possession of him. And to do so, he asks Robin Goodfellow, the hobgoblin, to help Titania, or help teach Titania a lesson, or maybe more to just distract her long enough so the servant can change hands. But Oberon and Robin's scheming is interrupted by the four lovers of the first storyline wandering into the forest, and Oberon is going to ask Robin to act as the Cupid of this story, basically, and start making all of these characters fall in love with one another in a way that will hopefully sort out everyone's problems. But Robin Goodfellow accidentally makes the wrong combinations of the four lovers fall in love, and then he magically also turns one of the working class actors, one of the Athenian men putting on the play. In that second storyline, he turns him into a literal, quote unquote, an ass, and his name's Bottom. Even though he's got a head of a donkey, Bottom, ass, get it, right? Anyway, Robin also makes Titania, Queen of the Fairies, fall in love with Bottom now that he has this monstrous donkey head on. And by doing so, them being in love gives Oberon time to take possession of the Indian servant and get what he wants. So Of course, all those three storylines start to unfold, hijinks ensue, and at the end we have three weddings and a play within a play performance that the married couples, by that point, the three married couples are all watching this performance and they're making fun of how bad it is. That's basically the gist of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now let's get into what I liked and what I didn't like so much about it. First, I always love how witty Shakespeare's comedies are. I also love seeing him entangle Greek mythology and settings with more typical, like English mythological characters and settings. So you have like Athenian and Amazon type of legend stuff, mythos stuff, mixed in with fairy, woodland, much more English types of mythos. I also always enjoy a good love story, especially one with an uplifting, happy ending. The absurdism of Bottom being turned into an ass is really good, though it's a bit on the nose. And I do love the intentional confusion and mayhem that Robin Goodfellow causes, and it has us as readers and or the audience constantly thinking through and making sure we're keeping up and that we have a grip on who likes whom at any given moment. That's all a ton of fun. But then a few things I wasn't too crazy about. For one, I think it was a whole lot of characters and plots within plots all stuffed into a very short runtime page count. Maybe give this the breadth of something like Hamlet, then maybe some of the four lovers could have been fleshed out a bit more as characters. I would say the only one of those four that I really cared much about, or I thought that got much development, was Helena, and that's really because we see her specifically constantly doubting that anyone seriously loves her, even though Robin's enchanted them to love her. Yeah, and she like hates everyone for what she thinks is they're all just playing a giant big joke on her. That stuff's really good, but unfortunately the other three, Lysander, Hermia, and Demetrius, they don't really stand out at all. Also, maybe I just didn't understand it, but I thought the whole Oberon wanting Titania's servant boy was a little bizarre. Maybe that's just a cultural, centuries difference of like that's just a weird goal I thought for Oberon to have, to kind of like motivate him in the plot. Yeah, and like I enjoy Titania falling in love with Bottom, but I don't understand the conflict over Oberon wanting the Indian serving boy. Any more well-read Shakespeare fans out there could maybe help me or help explain to me this down in the comments. Pretty please. I'd love maybe a little more insight into why that's incorporated into the story. And I don't really like that it's about people falling in love, but it never seems to have much to say about love itself or the nature of love. It doesn't really address what love is or why it's important. It's like love is a constant talking point in the story, but I don't think this story has much to say about love itself, if that makes sense. Anyway, the Modern Perspective essay at the end by Catherine Belsey, in that Belsey goes into that idea a little bit more, if you're interested. But yeah, all in all, a thoroughly enjoyable and whimsical Shakespeare comedy. I love the fairies and Robin Goodfellow in particular, meaning well by playing the part of Cupid, but ultimately making mistakes, although then again never getting up to enough mischief and enough mistakes where the relationships are irreparable. And then I also always love a good play within a play, trying to pick apart how and if Shakespeare was criticizing A Midsummer Night's Dream through his characters' critiques of the play within the play that the working men are putting on at the end. At the end of the day, a very breezy read. I highly recommend it, even though it might not be for a while. When I do read some more Shakespeare, it'll probably be either The Tempest or maybe I'll finally finish up the Henry VI trilogy with parts 2 and 3. I really do need to get around to those at some point. Anyway, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.